Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our celebration of the Eucharist and our celebration of Catholic Schools Week. I don't know if you knew this or not, but in several of my earliest assignments, I was a teacher. I taught at Cathedral Prep. I taught at Elkanah Catholic. I taught at Bradford Central Christian. And so, while I don't think that I was extraordinarily successful as a teacher, I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, but also got to do some great observing and learning in those situations. I remember from my teaching days, the students would often say to me as they're leaving the class, "Hey, Father, we're having a game tonight. Would you come and watch? Or we're having practice. Would you be with us for that?" I'd say, "Sure." And so, especially in the fall or the spring when the weather was mild, I'd oftentimes bring my grade book with me and my papers, and I remember sitting, on the stands or in the gymnasium in the bleachers, and I'd be correcting essays and looking down and watching the kids and just kind of multitasking like that. And I remember something that I observed that was just somewhat interesting. I remember a time when there was a boys' soccer game, if I remember correctly. And the boys looked somewhat confused because on one hand, they'd have their moms and dads screaming one command, "Do this," and on the other hand, they would hear their coach screaming, "Do that." So mom and dad would say, "Go for the goal, go for the goal." And the coach is going, "No, pass the ball, pass the ball." And you could see the guys are like, they're getting frustrated. In fact, I remember this one kid looked to his mom and dad and went, "Ah," like that, Now, in Italian, that's not good, That's very expressive. And so oftentimes, I could see the kids shaking their head, and it's like, "Mom, Dad, I love you, but you have no authority here. You need to be quiet. I need to be able to hear the coach's voice." We encounter a lot of voices in our lives, and we're constantly trying to discern to listen to one or the other. And sometimes when the noise is so loud from everyone screaming, it's almost an impossible task. The reason we have Catholic schools is not to be insulting to the public school system. Let us be very, very clear. We are lucky. We live in an area where we have some wonderful school systems. We have Mill Creek and Fairview, outstanding. And even the city of Erie, have you noticed how hard they're working with their public school students? But at the same time, they live within a parameter which is somewhat narrow because of the way the laws are written for school education. But what we have the great joy and privilege of doing is to offer an education system that certainly does the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we can broaden those walls of the hallway, so to speak, because we can hear the voice of Jesus Christ every day that our students meet, and dare I say, in every single class. How many of you and me, I know Father Rich, many of us went to Catholic schools. And I always feel sad when comedians or even in secular media, they make fun of the Catholic schools, the nuns that used to smack your hands until they were bloody or whatever it might be. I mean, let's face it, if you're my age, older, we lived in a different era of how do you discipline a student. And yeah, sometimes kids did get paddled and things like that. I mean, that's how the discipline was. We wouldn't do that today. We've learned a little bit more that appropriate discipline doesn't necessarily have a hand hit anybody. The discipline could be holding a kid's feet to the fire and say, "Well, I'm sorry, you didn't earn the grade." Even if mom and dad are on the sidelines screaming, "That's my child, they can do no wrong." No, I went to school. That's not true. We all mess up. And in a Catholic school system, not only can we teach by discipline, but also by forgiveness, by those appropriate second chances, by the ability of students to hear that mom and dad say, well, you know, we're on board with the teacher and the principal. If you did something wrong, I think it's appropriate you follow through with what they request of you. You see, when everyone's on board with education, whether it's Catholic or public, students learn a lot better. And their ears get tuned that when they hear these different voices, they get tuned to tune out the voices that are negative or bad and can tune in even more those voices which encourage and which reflect a godly principle. Now, I know that from talking to friends that are public school teachers, some of them do a little bit of God talk. But they always say to me, they said, I'm just glad no one really reported me to the principal, At Our Lady of Peace School and the Catholic schools of our diocese, we don't really have to worry about being scolded for the God talk. In fact, I think we're encouraged with the God talk. And no matter what class we take, whether we're taking a history class, a geography class, a math class, a science class, God can be very much a part of those subjects. And I guess what I want to say is, as a proud graduate of Our Lady of Peace School, a proud graduate of Cathedral Prep and Gannon University and St. Vincent Seminary in Latrobe, I really feel privileged to have walked that journey of my educational life, knowing that so many people cared for me. I want to encourage you from my heart that if you're a parent or grandparent and you're discerning whether to transfer a student or to enter a student into a school system, please do not be afraid to consider the Catholic schools of the Diocese of Erie. And particularly, I'd like you to encourage you to think about Our Lady of Peace School. Now, if any of us is looking for the perfect school, I'm afraid we will never be satisfied, because in any school system, they're always trying to improve upon the credentials of their teachers, improve upon the relationships they had with parents. There's lots of level of improvement. But if you would just give Our Lady of Peace School a chance for your child or grandchild, I don't believe you'll be disappointed. You'll find a lot of hope. And if the only thing they learn, besides the basic academics, is to know what voices to listen to and what not, your money has been extraordinarily well spent. Our prayer today is that Jesus Christ will be an extraordinary support for teachers, staff, and parents as they mentor their children in their growing up years, so that in the later years of life, they will know the love of Jesus Christ in everything they study, say, or do.